All right, so here's what we're talking about today. We had an episode of this podcast back in October, and we talked about women in power and women in public positions, and we raised the discussion about, are women beyond reproach? And I think this came out of an article Jason Whitlock, who was formerly at Outkick, kind of a notorious troll, he had written about how much he hates Katie Nolan.
Yep.
And what was interesting about it was people's reaction that Jason Whitlock should not be criticizing Katie Nolan. And my opinion is that while I do think Jason Whitlock is a troll, he does make some good points. And that when you are a person, whether you're male or female, and you are in a public position or you are in a position of power or you are looking to gain an audience and or a following, criticism comes with that. And just because you're a woman and you've made it, you should not be beyond reproach. How do you feel about that?
I think that's facts. I think what Jason Whitlock had to say about Katie Nolan was rooted in a lot of truth. And if you ask people who have worked with Katie Nolan and who have been around Katie Nolan, I have been around Katie Nolan, like a lot of those things are, I would say, gentle and generous.
All right.
There's more to the story about Katie Nolan than just that. So I think when you are a public figure, male or female, females will get, I think, different criticism. There's levels to this.
Yeah, that's a fair point. There's a lot of criticism that I think is bullshit, like about how you look,
Correct.
Which is annoying, and I would say sometimes wrong.
Yeah, I think that's like what they lead with. There's a level of criticism that is essentially trolling, I think, where it's like, well, we're just going to find all the things that we think that you're insecure about and just put those on the internet. That's not really criticism. That's more, I would say that's more online harassment, but that comes with the job too. that comes with the job too, and you have to let that roll off your back.
All right, so how do you think about this? Because you are a public person. You're a personality at Barstool Sports. You dole out your fair share of criticism.
That's right.
You went on Dave's show last week and talked about how you hated your coworkers, which was
See,
great. So how do you handle it personally? How do you think about that?
So what I think about is, one, if you look back at the tail of the tape, which I think needs to be noted, is I never like to sling the mud first. But I have always been a competitor. I have always been someone who wants to elevate my career, elevate where I am. I come from very humble beginnings, single mom, very poor, and played basketball, played athletics my whole life. So competition's in my blood, and fighting back is in my blood, and digging deep. So when someone, I think, comes after me, you get a couple of chances, and that's actually me doing a lot of self-work, because in the beginning you didn't. And then when it happens, and it's like, okay, let's call out hypocrisy. Let's call out, you want to talk about me interviewing Tyreek Hill, let's talk about Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like, and then you do it in a playful, light way, and then it's like, oh shit, she's savage. It's like, am I savage? Am I? Because I think I just really pointed out facts.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you mind being criticized, or do you like it?
I don't think anyone loves it.
Do you get hurt feelings?
I think for about 2 seconds. It depends on where the criticism is coming from and whether it's fair. I think it causes self-reflection. Is this real? Is this not real? Should I change my behavior? Should I not change my behavior? And I think every public figure should look at it when it comes in full force, like it did for our girl Rachel Hollis. Like, then you take a hard look.
All right, that's a great segue, Trysta. You clearly do this for a living, where I do not. When I get criticized, I'm sensitive, so I give myself 16 hours to wallow in it. I allow a 16-hour window.
What's the wallowing look like?
Oh, I just take to my bed. I'll eat it myself. I'll chew my lip. I'm allowed to have a cry within the 16-hour window, but after the 16-hour window, we're done.
Is there food involved?
No, not really. Sometimes wine.
Wine. So it's alcohol and the sweet sweat band.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of inertia. And I'm just hoping that stress melts away.
I kind of will attack the people closest to me a little bit.
Okay, that's how you react. I withdraw.
Okay.
I will withdraw deep into myself.
I get very savage,
bitchy? Yeah,
bitchy. Yeah, very cunty, as people would say.
Okay,
my mom would say that.
Great. That's a nice thing for your mother to say about you.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of those things, let's talk about Rachel Hollis. So Rachel Hollis is a former guest of the pod. She is a self-help guru. She's a New York Times best-selling author. She wrote the book Girl, Wash Your Face. Many would say, I would include this, that Rachel Hollis built her brand and her empire on being relatable and inspirational or aspirational to your everyday woman. And it was kind of like a girl's guide to getting your shit together and getting out there and being your best self. So last week, Rachel Hollis came under a ton of fire. She went on Instagram Live last weekend. She mentioned several times that she has a cleaning lady. Okay. Now, the internet did not love hearing that Rachel Hollis had a cleaning lady. I personally don't have an issue with Rachel Hollis having a cleaning lady.
Nor do I.
A lot of working women have a cleaning lady. Do you have a cleaning lady?
I do.
Okay.
And I think that, one, when you live a busy life, things get out of order pretty fast. And so coming home to a place that's organized and clean really resets in the middle of a very stressful, very busy day where you don't really feel like doing that. And if you are able to do it, it's an amazing feeling. I don't think that Rachel Hollis should have diminished the person cleaning her house as someone who cleans her toilets.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was like not particularly nice. I also think the emphasis that a cleaning ladies work their fucking ass off, and it's very physical labor. Like, if you've cleaned your own house, you know cleaning your house sucks. Although I will tell you that one of the things I do when I'm in my wallowing 16-hour period,
you're getting into the
is clean
floorboards.
Oh yeah, big time. Like, the more control I can exert over a small space.
Next time I see you in the headlines, I'll just invite you over.
Totally. I used to do that when I babysat. My mother told me once that, and babysitters do not do this now, it drives me fucking nuts, but if you are babysitting, you have to leave the house better than when you went in it. So when I would go babysit, I would like do all the dishes and I would organize the kitchen. Like, it was a psycho move. But
they probably loved you.
I don't know. It was like a cleaning lady / babysitter. Anyway, so Rachel comes under fire for having a cleaning lady. We're saying, hey, if you want to prioritize how you spend the money that you make and you want to have somebody help keep your house tidy, that's fine. You and I are on the same page, Trysta, that's saying that the woman cleans her toilet. Not super necessary. People went on to say that Rachel was bragging about having a cleaning lady and that the very notion of having a cleaning lady goes against the ideology she wrote in her book. In her books. I would disagree with that. I don't think having a cleaning person, or some people invest their money in having a physical trainer, and some people buy clothing, and some people, I don't know, take SoulCycle classes or buy a Peloton or whatever. Like, people are going to spend their money on things that they think make their life better. What happened, though, is that Rachel did take it to the next level and kind of exposed herself as being against the ideologies that she espoused. So she had a TikTok video that we'll play it. Okay, so we'll play the video. Okay, play on the video.
Doing a live stream, and I mentioned that there's a sweet woman who comes to my house twice a week and cleans. She's my house cleaner. She cleans the toilets. Someone commented and said, "You are privileged AF." And I was like, you're right. I'm super freaking privileged, but also I worked my ass off to have the money to have someone come twice a week and clean my toilets. And I told her that. And then she said, well, you're unrelatable. What is it about me that made you think I want to be relatable? No, sis, literally everything I do in my life is to live a life that most people can't relate to. Most people won't work this hard. Most people won't get up at 4 a.m. Most people won't fail publicly again and again just to reach the top of the mountain. Literally, every woman I admire in history was unrelatable. If my life is relatable to most people, I'm doing it wrong.
All right, so Rachel has since deleted this video, but the woman... I don't want to say it that way. Rachel since deleted the video, but in her video, she's essentially saying she doesn't give a shit if you think she should be relatable. She's not relatable, which I don't think anybody wins by saying I'm not relatable, because you know what she's saying is I'm better than you.
Correct. She's saying that everything you're trying to be, you will never achieve. You can buy my book all you want, but the truth is you will never be as good as me. And I aspire, the women that I look up to, which, by the way, all three of them won. Harriet Tubman, just a wild comparison. Oprah, wild comparison.
RBG. arguably the most pioneering woman in women's rights ever.
However, all of them extremely relatable, extremely down to earth, and I don't think would ever say those words out loud. And come from, all of them were champions for progress, which Rachel doesn't seem super on board with in that video, which was sort of shocking to me.
Yeah, I agree. I also thought the other thing that was shocking in the video is how angry she seemed. Mm-hmm. I thought there was a lot of vitriol in there, which I also think is against I loved her when I interviewed her. I thought she was very inspirational. I thought her candor about her divorce and her progress and the book she thought she was going to write, but the book she ended up writing. I think what's hard is when you say that you're better, when you say that you're better than the person you're asking to follow you, it really raises the question of why would people follow you? And I think she's inviting hate. So then I think that also got deleted. All right, so then Rachel decided that maybe wasn't the best look, so that got deleted. As everybody knows, you can't delete anything on the internet.
Lives forever.
Yep. Hashtag sex tape week. So everybody knows everything lives on the internet. And then she went one step further to blame her team. And what she essentially said was that her PR team was responsible for mismanaging her brands on social media. I have to be honest, I have a huge issue with that one. The biggest issue. Like, I think it's rude to be unrelatable. I think you're capsizing. She's a woman who's self-professed to work her ass off. And she's essentially eradicating the value she's built up and worked her ass off to have over the years. I think that'll have a brand perception implication. I think it'll have a financial implication. I think it's unconscionable, though, to abandon your team.
One, you can't throw the team under the bus.
No.
Two, if it's you working hard, then why are you talking about the team?
And how can it be the team's fault?
And how can it be the team's fault?
And it's also you in the video.
And it's you in the video, and very clearly there's a lot of jump cuts in that video. So she put that video out how she wanted it to be. It wasn't a rant. It wasn't all one clean Dave Portnoy rant. Beautiful, like, if I misspoke in some places, like, it's because I've been talking for 2 minutes. No, there was like 10 jump cuts in there. You said exactly and put out exactly what you wanted the world to see.
Yeah, that's right. The premise that she wouldn't have, it's her voice, her video, and that she would have no knowledge of it is tough. I think that's just a little bit tough. So then she went on a third round of response, which was to apologize. That came out last Tuesday, and that post still stands. So
at one point, though, she did say everything that she posts on social media, she touches and she controls. Mm-hmm. So
as she should.
So then you can't blame the team.
I don't think you can blame the team regardless. It's like
Period.
if my group, if these guys, Frankie, Jordan, Rachel, whatever, post something outrageous, you can have a private conversation about why you don't like that. I'm cool with us pushing the boundaries. I feel the same about all you guys in content. You have to take ownership, though, that you're giving people that permission, that freedom, and that authority to do, and you can't turn your back on them after they've done it.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what's really hard. So I think what's hard for Rachel is obviously, she's very angry about getting called out on the internet. I think that's a very natural reaction. 2, she's really proud of how hard she works. I think that's an amazing thing, and I'm sure she's worked her ass off. 3 is I think she's at a point where in a 72-hour period, I don't know why people would want to work for Rachel. I don't know why you want to buy Rachel's book, and I don't know why you want to buy into her mission. And then I think the connection of putting herself in the Mount Rushmore of Tubman, Ginsburg, and Winfrey, that's tough.
The whole thing is, there's times to a degree, not to talk about things that are like totally outside the subject, but you hear things from like someone like Chris Harrison when he went on his conversation with Extra. And it's like, unless you really do a lot of work, and I see that work, I know what you're about now. Like, I hear the whistles, I hear the subtext of what you're saying, and now you've illuminated who you are. You may be a lot of other great things too, but there are some things right now that I'm not going to follow you anymore because of this. And that's the life of a public figure.
That's right. All right. So then let's go to our second person. So Digit Murphy. So speaking of taking accountability, Digit Murphy is the former women's hockey player, president and head coach of the Toronto Six, which is one of the NWHL teams. So I love getting criticized about my association or lack thereof with the NWHL. But what Digit Murphy has done, Digit Murphy is on the Women's Sports Policy Working Group. So this is a group tackling an extremely sensitive subject. They're marketing themselves as a middle ground between people who want to ban trans women and girls from sports, and then the other side of the equation, the other side of the coin, the people who want to, quote unquote, ignore biology. So the topic of transgender athletes in women's sports is a huge, sensitive, gnarly topic. That was the focus of a New York Times article about a month ago. It's super layered. Essentially, though, Digit, now what becomes fascinating about this one is, which goes back to my issues with the NWHL and how they just manage communications and just the ecosystem around that league.
Not well, obviously.
Yeah. I don't know about that. Depends who you ask. Is that they preach inclusion. So I think one of the hardest things here is, and I think, at the core of the Rachel Hollis issue, which we just talked about, is she built a media empire on relatability and appealing to average women. The NWHL, and this is evidenced by their rejection of me and Barstool because we are not inclusive enough, is that they've built their whole brand aura around inclusion. When you do that, you cannot have the most famous and visible coach. I guess Colton Orr is pretty famous. He coaches the Whale, but most visible female coach and president. You can't go out on a limb and say, hey, trans people, trans women aren't welcome in our league. So Digit's joined this policy working group. That the working group, essentially, just to get back to it, has said that traditionally defined male puberty presents a significant athletic advantage. I don't think really anyone disputes that men are stronger, faster, bigger than women. What the working group's premise, though, is that successful trans women and girls will displace
cisgender
women and girls in athletics, and there must be policies in place to prevent this. What the group is focused on is preserving sex segregation in sports while also making it possible for trans women and girls to compete. That feels contradictory, just to be honest. So as a result, long story short, she joined the association. People start going bananas on Twitter in particular. The whole blogger ecosystem around women's hockey, all of whom have blocked me, so I have to text people to figure out what's being said.
You need a burner.
I do need a burner.
Oh,
I just haven't had a burner yet.
No,
do you have a burner?
Man, yes, of course.
Oh, shit.
I don't do anything on the burner. I don't speak on the burner, but I do follow. It just helps me filter out what I see.
Oh, really? I just text people. Literally,
like, send me what's happening with hockey Twitter right now.
I got like the best cliff notes of this last night. It actually was like hours of entertainment. But long story short, people have started to question her employment with the Toronto Six and the NWHL. People are calling for her head. People are also raising the question that there was a trans player named Jessica Platt. She played for the CWHL, which is the Canadian Women's Hockey League, which folded, and then the NWHL took over. And she tried to play for Digit, and Digit said no. So people are questioning if Digit, in fact, has bias against trans athletes. And then, so let's stop there. What do you think about this?
I think anytime you have power, you have to be very conscious of when you're talking about the subject that's very tricky, very dicey, and you have power over that one thing, everything needs to be fully fleshed out. You need to be fully prepped and aware of how that's going to be taken in and out of context in the media that we have now, which is that it's very clickbait culture. Mm-hmm. So is she worrying about how a very physical sport could affect women out there on the ice if someone who was born a man hip checks her? Don't know, because she didn't say it. No, we have no idea where her head is at, except for the fact that she's concerned about trans people coming into the sport. So I think she just needed a lot more prep and a lot more awareness in this space.
Yep. I also think the interesting thing is that she herself, as of the time we're recording this, hasn't responded. The Toronto Six has responded, and what the Toronto Six said is, our core values are about inclusion, empowerment, and education. All are welcome to play. This is a great opportunity to have a conversation on the important topic of transgender athletes. So her team made a statement. The NWHL then made a statement, and their statement was that they're reviewing the league's policy, which I have to be honest with you, if there's a hole, the NWHL will just dig it 1,000 times deeper. Like, why create exposure on your own policy?
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, now people are going to criticize that. Digit, as of the time we're talking about this, is still employed. My question for you, Trysta, is that if you were Digit, what would you do?
That's such a tough topic. I think probably one, say how I understand how this looks. This is such a complex topic, and it's so like I guess hot temperature, and to really explain further what she is thinking about.
Yeah, why did she feel the need to be part of this committee? I think what's interesting about it's kind of like Dave. I was talking about this on your show, actually. And what's interesting is when you say that you're good and you say that you're inclusive, the minute you do something that isn't good or isn't inclusive, you get an immense reaction to that, and rightfully so.
This is what we expect from you. This is what you told us that you are, Rachel. Like, you told us that you're relatable, right. Rachel.
Digit,
you
run an inclusive organization, and you are in a policy group that is actively seeking to
exclude.
I don't even know.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? But the perception is that the policies driven from this group are anti-trans.
Correct.
And, again, I get to the point of when you're trying to grow a brand and you're trying to grow a business, further excluding potential fans is not a great strategy. Like, I think the NWHL actually did put a lot of thought into their trans policy. I don't know if it's right. I don't know if it's wrong. I also don't know why a single coach is looking to set policy on that. Why the league is then questioning what they're doing. Like, they're almost making a bigger story. They're taking something that's small and they're capsizing it.
Oh, 100%.
In a debate that is significantly bigger than women's hockey.
Oh, yeah, and I think we saw what happened with J.K. Rowling when she came out, and her conversation around it was, one, much more nuanced, much more thought out, with much more research, and she has no connection to giving opportunities to trans people. And she was essentially sort of canceled.
She was canceled for being anti-trans. And I think that's actually the other thing that is so true about the internet that people have to recognize is nobody really cares. Long story short, they just want to scream. Two, no one's going to invest the time to learn what this policy working group is really about, to take the time to read the NWHL trans policy. They're just going to say, Digit Murphy, anti-trans, hate Digit Murphy, won't watch the Six, won't support the NWHL.
Correct.
Like, that's what's happening. What's also interesting to see is that in this particular debate, the pro-trans or pro-equality groups are very noisy, and the groups who perhaps want to protect women or want to maintain the status quo or to be more preservationist about cisgender, those groups are very silent. And that I've always found that true with Barstool, right? Whereby, we'll get called for being this, that, or the other thing. The groups who hate us are very loud. The people who like us are pretty silent.
Correct.
And that's also the nature of this.
And I think in all of these stories that we get to, there's a lot of hot button topics that these women just seem to want to touch when there are very vocal groups on either side, you're never going to win.
Right, exactly.
So it's kind of like, do you really need to do this right now?
Do you want to do this? Exactly right. All right, so that's Digit Murphy, and that is the Women's Sports Policy Working Group. Now let's talk about Anita Barnes. So you tell the story about Anita Barnes.
So Adia Barnes, Arizona.
Oh, sorry, Adia Barnes.
Arizona women's head coach. Arizona was a significant underdog against UConn. I think 14-point underdog. And they beat the hell out of UConn. It really didn't ever feel close, even though it got close.
And this is at the NCAA championship.
And this is at the NCAA Final Four for women. And so as Arizona gets their W, Adia's got her group of players around her, and she basically flips off everyone who slept on Arizona, right? And the cameras catch it. And they ask her, like, would you like to apologize? And Adia's like, no, I would not like to apologize. This is exactly what I wanted for my team.
I honestly had a moment with my team, and I thought it was like a more intimate huddle. And I said to my team something that I truly felt, and I know they felt, and it just like appeared different on TV, but I'm not apologizing for it because I don't feel like I need to apologize. It's what I felt with my team at the moment. And I wouldn't take it back. We've gone to war together. We look around the room and we looked around that circle. We believe in each other. So I'm in those moments, and that's how I am. So I don't apologize for doing that.
Everyone was talking about UConn, Paige Beckers. No one was talking about my nasty point guard, Ari McDonald. And we just put the clamps on your best player, the NCAA Player of the Year. We just held her to 5 for 13. Yep, as a freshman, Paige Beckers. Our 5'6" point guard, put her in prison. And we just are now going to the title game. So, yeah, fuck everyone who was sleeping on us. And I loved that Adia Barnes was unapologetic. And I think this is a perfect example of a woman who is doing her thing, doing it well, classy, but still pushing the boundaries of...
Yeah, she's got some edge.
Totally.
And some
Fire, edge, but didn't do anything wrong and was like, I haven't done anything wrong, so I'm not going to apologize for it.
Yeah, I agree. This one, I think, is, no pun intended, a slam dunk. One is she's a phenomenal coach. Mm-hmm. Two is everyone dismissed her program.
Correct.
The UConn bandwagon is a mile wide and, runs the entire gamut of this country. And three, she had a reaction. Like, that's, I think, what people want in sports.
That's exactly what we were talking about the other day. When you win, be a bad winner. Fuck everyone else. Beat your chest. Tell them what's up. Like, when I play even intramural basketball and I hit a shot because you know you're being slept on and you outperform, it's like, what's up now?
Yeah, that's right.
What's up now? Put your foot on their necks.
Do you think that do you think that a man would have gotten the same criticism?
I do not.
Oh, see, I think
it depends on what the context was. I think flipping off, I don't know if flipping off would have ever been not criticized.
Yeah.
But yelling, I know you had Coach Mulkey on and she was yelling and she got criticized for that. Mm-hmm. So maybe.
She's a great yeller, Coach Mulkey.
Yeah, she is.
Stylish yeller. Yeah, like I think, one of the things that I think we're in such an era of, though, is this like desire for decorum in a world where there is no decorum.
Right.
And to see real reactions that aren't polished, that aren't PC. That wasn't a PC move.
Correct.
Speaking of Adia, she breastfed her baby in the middle of that game.
Yep,
so,
halftime.
like, that's insane. What a woman. Like, I'd be giving the bird to everybody, too.
Yeah.
Like, so I think...
Like, my nipples are swollen right now.
Exactly. She's like, my bra's wet, and I'm, like, trying to win this thing. And she did. So, anyways, I think that is a funny one where... I think you do have a point in that people really don't expect that from women.
Yep.
I think people want the ESPN shield,
Be a classy winner.
Be a classy winner. But I think what people secretly love is that type of reaction in sports.
I
and
think
people
she's
are
now
going
a
to
bigger
follow
brand.
her completely. Arizona's a bigger brand. She's a bigger brand. They would have been a bigger brand just winning, but everyone would have forgot. Yep. Everyone knows UConn basketball. Not that many people are going to remember Arizona basketball. Correct. Now they will, and now they'll root for her.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
All right, so speaking of Kim Mulkey, let's do another basketball one. So Kim, we had Kim on 2 weeks ago, and the night before our episode dropped, Kim starts running her mouth. Which she seems like a woman who can run her mouth in a very scary way, which I find impressive.
Same.
She, in an unprovoked interview, made the suggestion that COVID testing should be lifted for the Final Four.
Right.
Why test these guys, these girls? Like, they're already there. It's going to damage the team. It's going to affect the strategy. Just let it ride.
You know, and I want to say this to all of you. I don't think my words will matter, but after the games today and tomorrow, there's 4 teams left, I think, on the men's side and the women's side. They need to dump the COVID testing. Wouldn't it be a shame to keep COVID testing and then you got kids that end up having test positive or something and they don't get to play in the Final Four? So you need to just forget the COVID test and let the 4 teams that are playing in each Final Four go battle it out.
So people had a massive reaction to that.
It was a very strong, very visceral reaction to Kim Mulkey, for sure.
Yeah. So what do you think about that?
I think a few things. One, got to put it into context about when this interview took place. They had just been, that game was stolen from them.
Baylor completely got robbed.
Was robbed by UConn, as everyone knows, and you just said UConn
Crazy
is the
foul at the end.
Correct. UConn is the team that everybody sort of expects to be there. And so Baylor had a no call that cost them the game, and they're the defending national champs, right? So they got Kim Mulkey to be interviewed 2 minutes after that, no cool down time. And so she's talking about the call. She's talking about the no call.
She's riled up.
She's riled up. She is inflamed and ready to go. And then had just been talking, I guess, to Gino Auriemma about the COVID testing and how all the doctors were saying, hey, there's going to be very few real, if not any, false real positives because you guys have been in the bubble for
You've been
20
quarantined.
days.
Correct.
Nobody's coming in or out. So she just decides to talk about it, which, you know, in hindsight, probably not a great time to just come out of the gate with that. But in the moment, now in hindsight, I think I understand where she's coming from.
Yeah, I agree. I think this becomes, I think a lot of what we're talking about today has to do with people's opinions. It has to do with the implications of being in power and the nature of social media to create a reaction. I also think it has to do with intent. I don't think her intent was to say, COVID doesn't exist, who cares, throw caution to the wind. I think what she's saying is, these women have been quarantined for 20 days. Any positives are likely to be false, to your point. That's what the science was saying. And let's let it ride for the last game to eliminate a layer of stress for both the players and the coaches. Now, that could have been a more thoughtful discussion. People didn't take it that way. She has not apologized. I don't really think she should apologize. I think she shared an opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And again, the difference between her and Digit is she's not in control of the COVID testing.
She doesn't run COVID testing.
Correct.
Right. And I don't know that Digit is in control of what the NWHL's policy is. I think that's also what's strange about the NWHL versus the NCAA is the NCAA is a very clear pyramid of control. The person who runs COVID testing is like, shut up, Kim, we're doing COVID testing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Whereas
but the perception is, I guess, that Digit is a coach and the president and can make decisions.
Yeah, she's a significant leader.
Right.
And she's a significant leader. So it's a statement for the league about what the league is doing. I agree with you on that. And then I also think, what I really liked about our interview with Kim, so if people haven't listened to that, they should go back and check it out because she's awesome, is that she is fiercely unapologetic. Like, the woman does have an opinion and she sticks with it. And I think sometimes the question of apology becomes, what exactly are you apologizing for? Like, I remember when we got fired from ESPN, people were asking if I would apologize or I was supposed to apologize for something. And I'm like, what exactly am I apologizing for? Like, I don't get what I'm apologizing for. I don't know what Kim would apologize for.
Yeah, I don't think that there is anything for her to be apologetic besides, like, I'm sorry I wasn't sensitive to the moment or how I wasn't clear in my messaging. But, like, at that point, no, why? And I think a larger point is that Kim and every public figure has to be aware of what the audience thinks of you already. And what you're going to say to either further reinforce that or combat that, or whether you're okay with that, right? And Kim has a brand of being in alignment with the Trump administration, and her politics sort of, I think, have colored what people think about her. So you see Kim and the mask is down, like below her. She was obviously struggling with keeping it. I mean, masks fall, right? And she's sweaty.
Hard
and
to talk in a mask.
Hard to talk, and like it's falling, and she's trying to put it up. And then she's talking about COVID, and now it's like, oh, well, Kim Mulkey is a COVID truther because she's in alignment with Trump and blah, blah, blah. And so to a degree, she should know that in the back of her head, but ultimately, what are you going to do?
Yeah, what are you going to do? That's right. So, all right. So the last one we will end on is my friend Colleen Quigley. So Colleen Quigley is a track athlete. She's awesome. She has a Bernese Mountain Dog, incidentally, and some of the most gorgeous hair I've ever seen. So you should follow her on Instagram. She's a great follow. She actually listened to, thank you, Colleen. She listened to our women's basketball episode and then said, say what you want about Barstool Sports. Erika Nardini is doing the real work to elevate women's athletics by showcasing their stories in the media. This is a great interview. So after she posted that, then she got a backlash of hate from Julie DeCaro, and the kind of like the Barstool, what would you call the group that hates Barstool?
Oh, that Deadspin crowd, or former Deadspin crowd?
Totally, former ESPNW Deadspin crowd. She's at Deadspin now, isn't she?
I think she's still there, Deadspin, yeah.
Anyways, long story short, they ratioed the shit out of Colleen and basically said, you can't say that. Barstool sucks. You put the little asterisks in the A's and in the values so that we don't get to pick it up and we don't see it. And then there becomes a whole fight around, you know, is Barstool good for women? Am I good for women? Am I bad for women? I don't hate on this one at all, to be honest with you. Like, I'm appreciative that Colleen Quigley took the time to listen to this show. I think that's incredible. I think she's phenomenal in her own right. I don't mind that Julie DeCaro hates Barstool Sports. Like, there's nothing that's going to change. There's nothing that's going to change that. I do think, you know, I think that and I also really believe that everybody's entitled to their opinion, and that you've got to, if you're going to live in the swamp, live in the swamp. Like, you're going to play in the mud, you're going to play in the mud. You've learned that here.
Right.
Like, everybody here is in the mud.
Right.
Whether you want to be in the mud, whether you thought you liked the mud, whether you're wearing a white dress, doesn't matter. You're fucking in the mud.
And you might just show up with a white dress and find mud all over you.
Correct.
So.
Or you might walk out clean. You never really know what you're going to get. I think the bigger, you know, the bigger issues that I have are we had something I think a couple weekends ago where it's my friend AJ Griswold. So AJ Griswold is a former Olympic player, lives in Boston. She was the announcer on NBC for the NWHL finals that the Riveters weren't invited to. Sad. But anyways, so AJ was commentating the game. Awesome. Great to have a female broadcaster. Love it. Whatever. I think she's great at her job. Marissa and Jemmy puts out a bitchy tweet on Saturday after the first broadcast and said, let's create a drinking game for every time that AJ mentioned she was in the Olympics or every time that she played in college, right? Like, just very snarky, nasty, kind of tearing somebody down. I
unsolicited, just completely
unsolicited. Yeah. And, you know, for me, there's a difference. Julie has a lot to say. Julie has a strong opinion. That there's a difference between having an opinion and not liking something, and then just completely stabbing and tearing somebody who's just trying to do their fucking job and create exposure and coverage for women's hockey. Catherine Tappan. So Catherine Tappan is from NBC. She is arguably one of the most well-known, well-respected, well-liked, phenomenal broadcasters, responded to Marissa and said, hey, like, do you think we could just lift each other up? And so I loved that. I thought that was, you know, you were hearing from a legend who was, you know, giving support to, you know, AJ isn't a broadcaster by trade. I guess she kind of is now, but also she kind of brought the reminder of, shouldn't we be supporting one another? Which gets back to the whole thing of, like, when do you support someone? When do you criticize someone? Is it black and white? Is it fluid?
Yeah, I think in a sport like women's basketball or women's hockey, it has a hard time on its own developing an audience. and the product being seen as good. So when you have someone that's attacking the broadcast and attacking the quality of the product when the outside world already thinks it's trash, I think you do a disservice to the growth of the game because it's exciting. And so if you're about that and about progress, then maybe just not tweet that right now.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between like the mean girls of it all. Like I think there's definitely in women's media, there's a lot of mean girl that, there's a lot of mean girls. I think there's a difference between having an opinion and a point of view and a purpose, whether people agree with it or not, and then just being bitchy and shitty in the cafeteria. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think you can, for example, you can attack a player's play, right? Or their attitude on the ice or on the court. And that's fair game because that's what you're doing, right? You're giving your opinion about something that's in the bounds. But when you start talking shit about her word choice and, basically making her seem like she's arrogant, you've painted a picture that you don't even know what's in her head. Maybe she's nervous. Maybe she's insecure. Maybe that's the thing that she's going to go and create credibility around. I interviewed, it was my first NBA finals where I was every day in the pressers, the ones that are on ESPN, right? And Draymond Green had a little thing with Drake. And I was being asked, maybe with a minute left to go in the press conference, hey, you should ask Draymond Green about his interaction with Drake. It will be good. It hasn't been asked yet. It's the #1 trending story on Twitter. You have to ask it. And I'm like, okay. So I asked, the mic comes up to me right now. Boom. And I'm like, hey, Draymond, just wanted to ask you if you could talk to about us a little bit about your scuffle with Drake. And it goes, it's insane. He's like, well, first of all, it wasn't a scuffle. And also, do you have a question about basketball? And there's like this 3-second pause, and I just feel my heart drop. And he's like, first of all, it wasn't a scuffle because he didn't touch me and I didn't touch him. He didn't push me, I didn't push him. And the world, Stephen A. Smiths of the world, the blue check journalists of the world is like, who is this girl thinking that she could ask these two guys about this scuffle? Did you see the smirk on her face? She's not a real journalist. She didn't even say her outlet name. She just wanted attention for her. She just wanted to make the moment about her. No, I was so fucking nervous. I just wanted to get the question out. And that's what I think is happening with AJ, is AJ's just trying to do her job. That's not the thing that she does on a day-to-day basis. That's not the thing that I did on a day-to-day basis. And you just want to be able to, like, move on, get the content you need, and, like, survive and move on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's also the intention, where
Right.
It's like, I think people can think Barstool takes it too far. We make fun of everything and everyone, and that's the intent, to make people laugh. I think what happened in Marissa's case is like, I'm not sure that was to make people laugh. I don't think she really earnestly wanted a drinking game. She just wanted to make AJ feel bad. And, I think that also gets to this. All right, so we're going to interrupt this real quick and talk about, what are you buying from the Barstool Sports store?
Ooh, I like the hoodies a lot.
Okay.
I like the Bussin' with the Boys gear. I like
Bussin'
their
with the
t-shirts.
Boys has good design.
They do. They have good quality hoodies too. I like that new crop with the cursive that says Barstool Sports.
Okay, would
on
you
it.
wear a crop t-shirt?
Yeah, in the summer. I told you I'm getting my summer summer
all
body.
right. I don't
yeah.
have I still have the fat over my, whatever, Frankie. Frankie's looking at me right now. I'm too old to wear crops.
Are you?
Yep, I am. I've thought long and hard about it. Oh, also, low-waisted jeans are coming back, which is a miracle for me.
I saw that. I wear high-waisted jeans.
Yeah, because you're in the demo.
Well, also, I just have a really long torso, and low-waisted jeans. Your body type and my body type are a little bit differently, right? Like, you have great legs. I have thick-ass legs and glutes. Like, I've got basketball player glutes.
Okay, but you got, like, nice abs?
Yeah, and so, like, the top of my abs mostly
Oh, okay,
are
that's
where...
great for a high-waisted pair of pants. Yeah,
so...
and a crop top, to be honest.
Yeah, the top of my abs are, like, they're good.
Okay, great.
But I don't want to have low-waisted jeans because it cuts my obliques and starts to create a muffin top that's not really even there. Your legs and your hips are in a way where your low-waisted jeans look phenomenal.
Well, that's nice to say. I do have a real muffin top, though.
I watch you walk to the bathroom in the hall, which is right next to my desk. Here's a confession. I'm like, damn, Erika has great legs.
That's nice, Trysta. Well, you can put a lot of great things on your legs from the Barstool Sports store. I'm jonesing for, we have a reflective running club jacket, which is sick. So I'm into that. I'm not into the crops, but Trysta is. What else do we got? We have shorts coming for NRC. We've got socks coming for NRC. So if you're on the Peloton or you're running, you can wear those.
Oh, I got to get those socks.
And we have a bunch of new hoodies. The Cursive hoodies are great.
Yeah, those are high quality as well.
All right, great. Any other ads I need to pretend to do?
Head to store.barstoolsports.com.
Oh, yeah, head to store.barstoolsports.com. Yep, that's right. Thank you to Trysta for co-hosting this episode. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on.
I love talking about what's in the news and what's happening with women. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast, leave us a rating, give us a review. You can join our Facebook group. If you search for Token CEO, you can find us on TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And that's about it. And that's about it.
When's the next episode coming out?
We will see you back here on Thursday. Great. All right. Awesome.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, my God. Absolutely.